Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a super, super evening last night, and I hope you're having a very, very good morning. It is morning here, and I thought I'd go ahead and take a moment between coding and kind of play testing a modded game, Skyrim actually. I thought I'd take a moment and pick up on the second video that I talked about in the previous one, which is I had the lists, the actual category lists. So it was just simply a list. I'll show you here real quick. It was just simply a list. I actually changed the. We'll do like a. Let's do like a plugin here. Let's just show the. Whoops. Let's show the plugin list. So I went ahead and changed the syntax for the function code. So now only a switch gets passed as opposed to a parameter. And I'll tell you why. I'll kind of go through the way I was thinking and how I had to kind of change my mind. But I'll show you, like we'll bring this up. It was this list, which you can swap back and forth between the install lists and then the plugin list. And all this is just it just really scans this list, and anything that's a header, it just throws over here. So a section is flagged as both a section and a header is flagged simply as a header. And that's why you see this. Now, normally these would be gray. Normally these sections would be gray just like the headers, but they'll have like an extruded 3D box outline around them. But because I have styles set up for this text, whenever a header is generated with that text, it automatically draws it in a particular style. So the concept was, the idea was, I had seen another mod author mention and I honestly like sometimes the challenges to actually see if something can be integrated, because I think that technically you could integrate almost anything. It just depends on what the data is, how you organize that data, and how each piece of data is processed to give the resulting in the whole. So, so what I was thinking is the original concept I had was, let's say, as I mentioned, I mentioned previously, like, let's say I wanted to, we'll go over here. Let's say I wanted to go over here to, let's say, the downloads folder, and right now this is actually reloading, and it takes a while. I'm not sure why when you have like, let's say, 90,000 files, it takes a while to get this loaded, but for some reason it does, which is odd. But if you were to click on a download folder and it actually add it over here to the available, then it'll actually appear over here in the installation order, because the order in which you activate them is how it records it as your install order. And and I thought, okay, this guy, this particular mod author, he's talking, well, I'm going to auto sort this, and I thought, oh, that's a really good idea. I like that. I don't necessarily need it because I do mine over here in this text file, which is right here, where I can type in what I want and I can format it how I want. And then I just grab and just, import from the clipboard. But I'm thinking, okay, how would we do this? I've got the list. So how would we actually sort using that list? And therein is where I encountered the problem, because you have two separate pieces of data. And I know I was thinking, wow, I know I've got the data, everything is there, it should be easy. Actually, it turned out not to be. So I actually had to do it a different way. And I'll show you how I did it. But I had two separate pieces of data, and in a sense, what I would have to do, because remember, this is all multi-threaded. So in a sense, what I would have to do is, when the downloaded mod is extracted, it generates an event, which then the framework picks up and says, okay, I've got a folder created. What do you want me to do with it? And I'll literally say, where is it? Oh, it's in your managed available or managed folder. Uh, and you've got it defined in your games config. It's in your managed folder. Okay, cool. Then I want to throw it up here on my available. I want to see it because I want to be able to, right click on it, install, and then select, these options and bring it up here, because I'm going to actually wind up formatting this different. So, I want to be able to bring up these options and check it out. Okay. So, but then how am I going to link that process? Because all of that is really done. Some of it's done in libraries, some of it's done in framework. So, how am I going to link that together with a manual selection of an item? So, as an example, I went ahead and in the toolbar, I went ahead and added a new option. It was very, very easy to do. Um, it really is, hang on a second, I'll show you. I don't need that. What we need is this. I just went ahead and added an option to the toolbar, which is over here. Okay, that's tool.
Let's get to modding.
Not that. That's not what I need. Here we go. So all I did was add a little option here that says sorting list. And I gave it a color group. So I put it in the mod color group. Over here, I have the color group for mods in green. Like this is green. So I have it in a green color group. And it kind of visually makes it easy to really pick out. Okay, so that's the color group. And there's the image name. There's where I was talking about how you can literally assign an image to it. Um, it does hot load. At least this application does hot load. Um, and let's go over this way. And then there's the menu. And then that is an immediate option because it's in brackets. So it doesn't really display a menu. It'll see this and it figures that it's going to behave like a button. In a sense, both of these list views behave like buttons. And I'm mistakenly called these buttons. These are not buttons. This is just a list view item where it behaves as a button. And that's just how I wanted to do the toolbar because I wanted this simplistic ability. I really wanted Windows to be able to throw up a list and me to scroll through that list. I wanted that functionality to be kind of canned, so I just went ahead and used a list box for it. And then with custom draw, I can literally format the colors and images however I want. Same over here. So what I did was I just put another button here, and then I added just another operation code. And all this really does is bring up a list, and it's over here. So it's just really where you select a category. And you can see where I put the parameters to it. This parameter here no longer applies. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this out because this really doesn't apply anymore. I might put it back in later, but because it was kind of like I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to I'm gonna have to take whatever is created by the system. The framework's gonna have to pick up a folder created event. I now have to pass that to an open form, which I can do, but I have to pass it to an open form, but I have to put the sorting on hold. So as an example, when I added a folder here, it would automatically go down here to the bottom of the list. It would actually go down here to the bottom. Well, let me switch over here. Let me switch lists real quick. We're gonna go back over this way. So it would actually, my install order, it would go down here to the bottom of the list. So I'd have to intercept that sorting order, check to see if a form is open. If it is, then I'm going to have to get input from it. And then I'm going to have to take that input, send it back. Now, I can do that. I did put something in here called wait for input. I can do that. But I thought that was kind of a little bit, it's a little bit, to me, that was a little bit too complicated. And whenever I wait for input, it actually locks the whole interface up because it can't really process events because that is not a multi-threaded method. So it's going to freeze everything up. It's almost like where you do like a select folder input or like a select file input. So it's like a prompt. Okay. So I'm thinking, okay, so how could we do this? And I thought about it for a couple days. I was actually thinking on and off. I was doing a little bit of coding and I'd kind of sit down and think about it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try something different just for the fun of it, just to see how it works. Um, and on a side note, I did put templates in here. So you do have a load order template that can be set up automatically. You just specify a template for each game if you want it per game, or you can use a default and it literally puts the headers in here for you. So if you're looking at, let's switch back over here. If you're looking at this, it would actually put these in here for you. So it kind of does the header things and gives you like a basis to work with. It's just a template, and it's very simple. The code needs to be debugged. I kind of had an idea, threw it in there, got it kind of working, but it really needs to be just tested, just really hardened over a series of tests. Okay, so let's switch back over to here. All right. So I'm thinking, okay, what would I want to do? Like I edit this install list, oh, like I say, over there in a text file. So what would I really want to do with it? Well, I can't necessarily auto sort it because it's not using it's not where's our end at here? There we go. So it's not really using like a Nexus API. So I don't really link into a Nexus API to be able to get the name of the category. Like the Nexus, can categorize certain mods based on like whether they're textures, whether they're, fixes, things like that, models, meshes, it can categorize them. So you could use that category if you do it using, let's say, an API. If you put an API in here, then you can probably query what that is, and then you could use that to auto sort. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted the user and myself to be able to put any category name I wanted. I wanted freeform. In other words, I wanted a freeform document like this. Let's go over here. Are we? Viretari. Here we go. All right, so I wanted to put a freeform document like this, where you literally can just type in everything. It doesn't matter if you've defined categories. Like if I go over here and say I want to add a category, it'll actually go from a list. So if I want to add a section, it'll actually bring up a little list, and these are what's configured. And if I click this, it'll actually insert it. And I actually wanted to put two different things, like where it says section and category, because they're flagged different. I'm gonna have to fix this window. It keeps wanting to go that way. All right, so but they're flagged different. So the flags are different, and that way they appear different. They'll either be, extruded, which is a category, or they'll just be gray, which is a section. So I thought, okay, well, what can I do with this? If I'm gonna do anything with it, what can I do with it? And I thought, well, okay, so um, what I can do is, depending on what the list is, so depending on what list is showing, I can actually show I can show the headers from that list. So if I was to go to here, see how these are the headers here. And if I go over here to plugins and I click the same button, you see how these are the headers. So I put a new function code in, which was over here. And you can see it's just basically broken down into, again, the worker name, just to kind of clean it up. You can see where if you specify a switch in this function code, in this function code. So if you look at this command here, over here, I simply take whatever parameters are in here. So if it's like dash p comma dash x dot dash y, I parse that out into individual array elements. If you have spaces in between there, or if you need a comma, you need to put it in quotes. You need to put like quote dash p quote comma and the next one, because that way everything within the quote stays within the quotes. But basically, all this block here does, and I want to show how simple this was. It literally just says what switch should I offer. I kept this simple so I wouldn't have to put anything over in the localization file, which converts a token, localization token, back into an actual word. So I just put XP, and you don't want to put the dash, because it automatically takes the dash off when it looks for it. But if it's an X, it's going to throw up the default. That's what this is. There is a default defined in categories. There's a list over here called categories. Take a look. I believe it's categories. God, there's like so many things going on. It's like amazing trying to keep track of all this stuff. Category any. Here we go. So this is the categories you see when it brings up that little list when you want to add or insert a category. Here's the templates. So there's plugin template. There's the available template. There's templates for specific games, which gets inserted in. And then you can see here, official files actually looks for official files for the games, inserts it in. And then you can actually see where I do a default template, which is here. This is just a default because this is a tag within this tag. So if I go to load the tag items, the default items, I'm going to get this. If I load the tag names, I'm going to get that name and I'm going to get that name. And then I can look these up individually if I want to. So there's just a default template, and I just threw it in here. So that's what the X option does. It's like, okay, I want to throw up just a default list. I have P for a plugin list, and I have I for the install list. And you can actually see down here if I specify it or else or if the view list equals a plugin list or view list equals an install list. So that allows me to select which list that I want to throw up on the screen. And then this actually, you can see it's the exact same framework, as every single other, almost every other opcode in here in the framework. It literally just says if the worker isn't running, I'm gonna start a thread, and I put a start thread here just in case things got pretty big. It wouldn't kind of freeze up the interface while it's doing some background stuff. I want a callback. When you're done, I want you to call whatever this function code is back. It calls it back, and then it basically retrieves the report, which is the category list report, and then it shows it. And that's how I did that. So that's how I put it in there. So if I was to click, as I click this, you can see that it goes through this actually calls 210. 210 actually says, okay, what list are you showing? You're showing the plugin list. Okay, I'm going to show you the plugin section category and section items. And then that's kind of like how that lists work. So if we go back over here, let's switch back over here to this, and then we bring this list up, you can kind of see. Now, let's say that I wanted to show the actual, just a default, which has just a ton of headers in. And, uh, and I'll explain why I wanted to do this in just a second. So, let's see, we got to find, yeah, we don't want that. That's some good old code. A lot of times I'll make little notes on code. We don't want that one. We want this one. Okay, so we want to put an X here. All right, so let's go over here. We want to pass an X, and you can make these anything you want. I just made them an X. There's no menu option for it right now, so we're going to have to go in here and just run the function directly. And this is what it shows. So you can have like a list of categories or a list of items, but this list is a little bit different than this list here. Okay. In this list here, you have sections within categories. So to show you what I mean, let's go over here. So, okay. So before I do this, what I did is I literally added uh, kind of drop sorting. So I've got an item that I want to sort. So as an example, let's go all the way down to the end. Let's just grab this. And let's say that I want to take this growl mod, which is so growl. I just deactivated it. All right, let's say I want to take this floating subtitles mod. And let's say that I want to sort it into one of these categories. So we're going to do it kind of easy here. We're going to put it we're just going to stick it over here in one of these. So all you do is just drag it over, and you can see that now it went, let's see, right here. See? So it moved up here. Here's where it went. So it's kind of like drag drop sorting. It's what I call drop sorting. Um, and we'll put this other one back real quick. And I got to work on the double click because it was kind of funny with actual virtual lists, double click didn't work. So I had to put in like a simulated double click. And I think I got the timing a little bit too tight because it literally, what am I looking for? Here we go. Because it literally, it literally is too quick. And I'm thinking it's grabbing the double click from different. I think it's combining clicks from different list views. I'm not really sure. All right, so let's import this, and you'll actually see where it is. See, because I deactivated it, so it thinks the thing's deactivated. But I don't really have it deactivated over here because it doesn't update. But I'll do that here in a little bit. Okay, so you can kind of see that. But if you notice, if I grab over here, so now we're going to add the categories in reverse. So let's say I have a list here and I want to add categories to it. What I can do is grab this, drag it over here and drop it. And you can see that now I have a category. See, sounds and music. See? So we have sounds and music. Or what I could do is, and I need to add the icon. I can see where I didn't bring the icon over. Because I forgot. Normally, I let the styles handle it, but this is not a style. This is directly added. But let's say that I want to go here and I want to add, let's say I want to add this section. But this section is in this category. So if I grab this and pull it over, you can see that what happens is it decides to jump all over the place. But you can see what happens is it added the gameplay, see, and it added the options. So it added both the category, see, and the section item. So that way you can easily kind of segment your you can kind of segment everything. However, this list right here comes from this. So we really wouldn't necessarily want to do it like that. All right. So let's go over here and I want to reset this. I'm going to go back in and let's clean this up. There we go. All right. So let's make sure we're at the end of this. Go back to the end. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring up a different list. So let's say you have a default, you have all of your sections and headers. And I can't really use the category list. Like if you look over here, I can't really use this because I don't know if you want to add it as a section or a category. I don't know because these don't really have any definition because this list here brings up a menu that you actually depending on, it's the same function code. It's the same framework opcode. But depending on which menu item, it passes a flag. It uses that little param switch thing or passes a flag that literally says, I want this to be a category. I want it to be a section. So can't use these. So we're going to use these down here, which are already in the proper format. This is already in the format that I need. Okay, so let's go over here and let's do an. I don't have this menu option set up, so we're gonna have to use our little direct command. And the direct command really lets you create because all the framework opcodes, almost every single one of them take parameters. And you can pass parameters when you define the menu item. That's how you have like the opcode, and then you put the parameters in parentheses. So you have the parameters to go into it, or you can specify it directly. So if you want to test something or you want to do something on demand, you can do it like that. Okay, so let's go back this way. We don't want script extender, we want scripting. Okay, so we'll bring this menu up. So here you can see that, let's say this is a list of, and this is defined by, the reason it's like extruded like this is if you looked at the list over here in the category section, it basically is anything that starts with a brace is kind of a special record, and there's different special records depending on what it's applied to. But what we want to concentrate on is or what I want to look at, or what we want to look at is the fact that whether it's just a brace and text or whether it's a brace, a bracket, and text. Brace and bracket is a category, and just a brace, if it's just a brace here, that's a section. Like this would be just a section. That would be gray, and if this has a style for it, it'll be in a color, which is what you see here. So this way, I can literally just grab this and just pull it over. See, you can just grab and pull wherever you want. And then this, a category is standalone. Therefore, you have your category sections that you can see. However, in this instance, this does not group them together. So in other words, this is not necessarily a subset of that. So if I grab this and pull this over, well, I'm sorry, I apologize, I was incorrect. I was thinking it wasn't, but it's the same. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking. It's the exact same code, so it treated it the same way. So you can actually see that this lets you set up some kind of a default. Whereas if you use this list, these are the very same headers that actually appear over here. They're the very same ones. Therefore, you're not gonna see them over here. Okay. All right. So, and also I can see something I need to do. I need to actually update this list so that when you run this list from it, these will appear over here. So that was kind of like a concept of drop sorting. I can do this next. This is not really going to be that big of a problem, but that was my idea of drop sorting. So the way I tried to solve it was I didn't want to actually try to interrupt You got two threads that are independent. I didn't want to put some glue in between them. I thought that might be a little bit too, it might be a little bit too complicated. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll just do drop sort. So you can just grab something, drag it over, drop it on a category, and it automatically sorts it in that, which will work. That'll be fine for what I'm doing because most of the time, what this is is whenever I add in my currently modded game, the mod authors actually update their mods. So I'll download that and I'll extract everything. If it's a foam mod, it'll, I can build it, or, I'll get the data folder is ready to install, and then the folder appears down at the end. So I can easily grab and just drop it where I think it should go. If it's something I know exactly where it goes. But one of the things this doesn't show, like one of the downsides to this, doing it this way, is I can't really see where to put it in here. Now in the sorting, this is what I was talking about earlier on. I wanted to redo the sorting. Uh, in this makes it more extensive. In the sorting, it doesn't it does actually allow you to specify a switch, which says, if it finds the section, it'll put it at the very first item, or you can say, "I want it to be the last item in that section or category," and it would actually put it down here. That would move this down, and it would go here. So, it's kind of like a very, very, simple drop sort concept, to where you can just drag and drop, and it does, because it takes the drag and drop event, and it grabs the little pieces of data, and then it converts that into an index. I have the item, and then it converts it into an index, and that's where it knows to sort it. So that was kind of like my solution to it, and that's kind of like the thing I was thinking about. And this is a good example here of using this particular floating toolbar, so that way it's something specific to this list, because this function code only displays the list that's specific to the list you're showing. So if you were to go, let's say here, you would see the plugin list. And I'm positive if I go back, it's not going to show, see it, because it didn't actually update the list. I need to put in I actually have to put, the way that I did that, I'm actually only updating the list view. I need to update the data list that the list view is built from. All right. So that's kind of that concept. That's kind of like a proof of concept, working concept. I don't know if it'll be of any use, but I threw it in there just to see what happens. So I hope everybody has a good evening. I've got a few things I got to do this morning, and I'll probably be back later to maybe kind of demo a few other things. All right, guys. I hope you have a fantastic day.